Ready or not, here I come.
Here we are. We're live, Brad. And it is, I know I said Christmas in July last week, but I also was under the impression when we came on last week that it was going to be another like 1 to 2 weeks at least before fall camp comes. And lo and behold, fall camp starts tomorrow, Brad. Starts tomorrow.
Perfect timing. That's why we do this on Tuesdays. We've been timing it right. We had our media day on Tuesday throughout the day. We were able to cover it right off the bat. And now, perfect timing. We're right. Day one tomorrow, probably going to be lids only, I imagine. No pads yet. And I don't know when pads typically start for Signetti. I feel like it's day 6. They throw on the pads, maybe next week. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I don't think that anyone has access to the schedule. Could be around somewhere, but super exciting. Love fall camp. Went through, obviously, I've only played high school football, but fall camp has always been one of the, as hard as it is, one of the better memories. Is really where teams are formed and where bonds are made and chemistry is built and guys kind of find their spot on the team, and the team obviously improves over time and iron sharpens iron, all that good stuff. And really just getting locked and loaded for college football season. It was like, we got this 6'11" Bosnian in basketball. And it's like, who cares? Fall camp starts on Wednesday.
Yeah, I thought your tweet was perfect because obviously, like Indiana basketball, huge deal, big deal, and they added a big man, somebody he's still working for his visa, but they were calling him Baby Jokic, right? But no, your point exactly. Like this is football season. Like we're here. There is no more waiting. Like starting tomorrow, it's going to be like we're going to get weekly, if not daily, press conferences. Like the news cycle is going to kick up. Like, I'm getting tingly just thinking about it. Like fall camp baby, says Fat Boy in the chat. Like let's go. And I'm like, we're literally here. Like we're here. Like there is no more waiting. Like football is the ramp up is here, and it's the 29th of July right now. By the end of this week, it'll be August, and by the end of that month, football.
Our whole theme over the past 5 months has been there is no off season, so it's finally great to kind of get away from that. And I consider the start of fall camp to become in season, in my opinion. And we're locked and loaded, getting ready for Old Dominion on August 31st. It's in 33 days, so got a lot of work to do. I'm pretending to be Signetti right now, so we got a lot of work to do, and we got a lot of things to cover, and we got a lot of practices to execute to perfection before we get to Old Dominion. Who, by the way, we're not doing any previews yet, but I will say Old Dominion's, we talk about this week's schedule. Old Dominion's probably better than a lot of group of 5 teams out there, and we'll cover them later. But it's going to be a fun early test for us, and can't wait to kind of hop into it. What kind of show do we got today, Keys?
I'll tell you in a second, but appreciate the shout out, John. John said we cracked 450 subs. Congrats, boys. We did. We're chasing 500 subs before the season starts. I think we're at 458, if I'm not mistaken. We're hunting. But what's on tap for the show? I know last week I said that there were some different breakouts between Signetti, Sarat, Fisher, and Kamar that we didn't get a chance to cover because either they weren't out yet or I was watching Brad's appearance on the Big Ten show with Mark Rogers. You can check that out on Mark's channel. You could actually check out Brad's appearance on our channel. It was an electric appearance. I thought, Brad, you had an excellent sell for Indiana football. But what I did promise was that I would go back and find the different bits of media I wasn't able to cover, and I would bring that to you. And so that's what I got. It's funny. There was like a couple different videos of the same press conference, and one was 5 minutes, one was 10 minutes, one was 12 minutes. So it's like I tried to compile everything, but I think there was some Kamar stuff I didn't get to. But so we're gonna hop into the press conferences first. But Scott Bandy saying the video game NCAA has Iowa beating IU. Blah blah blah. Yeah. We don't. The channel runs those simulations. Obviously, I don't control those, or I'm not involved in like setting those up. It was funny. I saw a lot of the comments on the Illinois stream, like EA doesn't lie, like blah blah Indiana, all this, because like Indiana won that game. And then I was like, because I can check out all these streams as they come up on the channel before they post, and so I'm going through and I'm like peeking to see the scores. I'm like, just wait for the next video. Like I don't know if we'll be saying that, but you take those with a grain of salt. I don't think Indiana is going to be losing a 30-point game at Iowa. I would probably just throw that one out.
I don't see that happening, but like at all. I don't see that happening by any means. But, how do you lose 40? How do you be a good team and lose 40-7 on the road? I mean, you go on the road to a very hostile environment. The game gets away from you early, and the wheels kind of just fall off. That's probably what happened in that fake simulation game that we're probably spending way too much time talking about right now.
We've already spent
Real
too much
football
time.
is happening tomorrow.
I want to go back to Signetti's breakout. There was a lot of interesting things he said there. One of them was they asked him about covering Jeremiah Smith, and he kind of laughed and he said, I think you're talking about like press coverage or man to man, and you just hope the quarterback throws the ball off target. He said, in comparison to Julio Jones, he said Jeremiah Smith looks a little bit looser, slightly faster, and thinks he's probably the most developed receiver he's ever seen at this level.
Did I say it on this show yet about my thoughts on Jeremiah Smith?
I don't know, but the picture of Barstool Tate in the number 4 jersey was insane. That was disgusting. I can't believe they let him put that number on.
And yeah, well, the thing with Jeremiah Smith is I don't people realize people love throwing the Julio comps at him, which I think is pretty accurate. Like just freakishly large, fast receiver, kind of no real weaknesses. I mean, this guy's a lot better than Julio was as a freshman. That's all I'm gonna say. His route running is a lot more refined. I mean, we're talking like I have a hot take about Jeremiah Smith. I think he's going to end up being probably the best receiver to do it when it's all said and done, if he can just stay healthy. Special talent. But, this is an IU show. So enough of Jeremiah Smith. We had to deal with his ass last year. And thank God he's not.
Listen, yeah. if you go back and go back and look at Jeremiah Smith's box score from last year and go look at the Indiana game and try and figure out who was covering him. And
yeah, peep the game.
You wonder why we're so hot. You wonder why we're so high.
It'll be like 100, 100, 100, 147, 100, 100, 100.
It's like, oh, D'Angelo Pons is good. Yeah, what does he do against Ohio State? It's like, okay, buddy, go watch the game. But I digress. There was another Julio Jones story we got from.
Seriously, I didn't even watch the game. Like literally, go if you want to be a box score watcher, go box score watch that game, and you get the same result as your eye test.
Yep. Sig appeared on what's the First Things First, I think is the name of the show. What's the Nick Wright, Chris Broussard Fox show?
I think it's First Things First. I saw he was on that show. I didn't really see much of the clip, but I did see he was on it, which is kind of surprising he'd be on that type of show. But awesome. I'm glad they brought him on.
Yeah, he was doing all sorts of media, but they asked him for a Julio Jones story. And to your point of Julio not being that polished as a freshman, Sig said when he came in, he didn't have great ball skills. And he said that was really developed and worked on through Julio's freshman year, just like hours and hours on the jugs machine. And he said he developed his way into being a great ball tracker. But when he came in as a freshman, he wasn't. And then somebody from the reporters like group was like, "You coached Julio Jones?" Yeah, I did.
I actually brought him to Alabama. Actually, that's what Sig should say. And Mark Ingram and Dante Hightower.
Yep. Back to his breakout. He was asked about how the university is attacking like NIL and how they're deciding how to pay people and things like that. And he said they're operating under the under the thought process that the biggest pot of gold is going to be the rev share, and then you can supplement off of that. But he did say they'll adjust accordingly, and we'll see how the pieces fall, because it looks like right now teams are using NIL to almost double or triple what the rev share is going to allow teams to spend. And I don't know if that's sustainable. We'll see what the College Sports Commission, or that was the other thing he brought up, is like it's been made known to the coaches. Signetti said this, and he said it was made known to him. I'm assuming he meant to the coaches as well, that there's a new sheriff in town. I've been talking about Brian Seeley and the College Sports Commission for 2-3 months on here as the least talked about biggest storyline in college sports. And eventually they're going to have to bring the hammer down on somebody, and we'll see. But in terms of like NIL and rev share and all that stuff, like there's going to have to be a decision first before we see, some like real guidelines set in stone.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I really do think like the rev share and NIL stuff will probably figure itself out. Where I think one of the more glaring issues right now is the tampering with the portal. I think that's a big issue in the sport right now, and we gotta cut that out. This is not professional. Like, it's not even acceptable in professional sports, let alone it should not be acceptable in we'll call it semi-pro sports now. it used to be amateur, but it's definitely a semi-pro league now. And yeah, no, it needs to be fixed among many things.
Well, that was the other thing Sig looped into the College Sports Commission conversation, was that part of the reason why he wouldn't expand details on who the tampering school was that came in and tried to offer somebody on Indiana's roster, you presume one of the All-Americans, $1.5 million, who wasn't in the transfer portal. Part of the reason why he's not going into more detail about that is because the way it's been made known to him is that this College Sports Commission is going to be handling a lot of those punishments. So we'll see if anybody actually gets in trouble. They did reference the Wisconsin-Miami lawsuit, and Sig said that had to do with a contract, and we're hoping contracts kind of like those can be enforced and not just like ripped in half on a whim. So we'll see. But yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be addressed because it's rampant.
100%.
It's funny. You can tell that some of the people asking questions hadn't been paying attention to this Indiana football team, because they were like, okay, cool. Like, who do you like at linebacker this year? Like, lining up next to Fisher? Like, do you feel like between Isaiah Jones and Elijah Hardy, like you have a guy there? And Sig was just like, we feel like Elijah Hardy's a top line guy. Like, he was a starter in our like 3 linebacker packages last year. Like, he's like, we believe in this guy. And it's like, I don't know how many times he's got to say Ro Hardy's the guy before people just like accept it as fact. And it's like, they're,
the 0-star recruit from 2 years ago?
Yeah.
He's the starter?
It's like, if you look at the spring game, we had Elijah Hardy starting at linebacker. We had Jamari Sharp starting at corner. And then you go into you're going into fall camp. Like, why would those two things change? That was the other thing is they asked him, again, we covered this last week, of who's going to be the number 1 corner across from Pons. And a couple of different names came up with Amarian Knighton's injury. And I guess Gandy wasn't injured or didn't have an injury, or maybe he wasn't the guy I saw on crutches or whatnot. But the names that were brought up in competition for that CB1 spot, obviously Jamari Sharp, Knighton, Gandy, and Jalen Hollywood Bell.
The darling. Number 3 in your program as a true freshman.
Should
have been a dead giveaway. I wasn't sold on it because I was so sold on the other talent we had. But I mean, the fact that this kid's even named by Signetti after a spring camp is crazy. The kid could really break out and end up being the starter for the Old Dominion game. Knowing that stuff, and presents him a big opportunity. We'll get into it later. But yeah, exciting for Hollywood Bell. And I'll give Keyser some ball knowing flowers here. He's been on Jalen Hollywood Bell more than I was. And, he was right here, and he got me on one. All right. And I'll concede. Keyser got this one right. Nailed it right on the head. Probably could be one of the bigger true freshman impactors on this team, at least in special teams, from what it sounds like.
He's just a dog. Like I said, you can tell how much the kid loves football through the screen. Like, it's just it. He's a football player. He likes to put his head in the ball. He's going to be working. Like, he's doing all the right things, and it's showing up. And like, people, if you're not following recruiting very closely, like, it's things like this fall through the cracks. But that's a one-time LSU commit. Like, he's a high-level dude from a football family who's in there putting in work. Yeah, John's right. They call him Hollywood for a reason. So that's what I got for Sig's breakout.
I mean, he played at Grayson. It's one of the better schools in the country. He can probably play a little bit. I imagine. But like I said, it's hard to play. It's hard to get a starting job as a true freshman. But if you do, huge for the team overall, and just in the sense that, look, we have this new key young piece. We have our Elijah Hardy, our Landino from last year that we're now going to be, those are going to be building blocks for the next 3 years. The more of those we get from these past 2 recruiting classes, the better. So, yeah, huge for him to just be mentioned by Signetti in that context.
I could not agree more. And I had to I was like, oh my God, no way. I rewound it. I was pumped. It's like, I mean, everybody, like, they're all my guys, like, everybody on the, I'm in Indiana Hoosiers football. Like, everybody's my guys, but like,
I love every single one of the 82 names listed on my little sheet here. You know how I feel about walk-ons. That has to be a little more earned for me. But all the scholarship guys, plus Jeff Utzinger, Andrew Turvey, and Mark Langston, And yeah, we'll throw
Langston's
Jack
got to be
Greer in
under
there too.
scholarship, dude.
We'll throw Jack Greer in there too. We'll walk on back, third string center probably. Bray Lynch is probably backup, but
we'll go to Mikhail Kamar's breakout next.
Ooh.
Again, I don't know where I came in to Mikhail's session, and there might be another like 5-6 minutes of him answering questions. So I'm not sure about that. Definitely go check out their interviews, obviously. But they asked Mikhail to describe the team. He said fast, physical, relentless. He said one of the things that he was, I don't know if he said he was nervous about it. I don't think that was his quote, but one of the things he was kind of looking forward to was like, okay, you play these Nebraska teams, you play these Maryland teams, like they're going to be physical. And he was like, wait a second, like we're pretty physical too. We're a pretty physical bunch ourselves.
And I imagine we got a little more physical. Like we've always been like generally physical, like as a team. Like I think one thing that we haven't talked about at all last year is how good of a like downfield blocking we were from the outside guys and the receivers. Like we were the best in the country at that. We have physical corners that are not afraid to tackle. We're physical at all three levels at all times. Hell, even our quarterback was physical, playing through injury, playing through pain. Sure, Mendoza is the same way. 98 yards with my boys. That's just gritty as hell. It's obviously it's a lot of times it's coach speak, but I mean this team lives it. They really do. And yeah, and then finally getting to my point, the trenches. I think we're going to see a huge upgrade this upcoming year in terms of the physicality there. Obviously, you can be tough, but like when you're just outmatched, you're outmatched sometimes. And obviously, we saw that in the Ohio State and Notre Dame games. Hung around with Michigan, so that's a really good sign that we were able to get that dub. So it gives me hope that we can turn a corner. It's kind of like we're at like 33% against like the top trenches teams this year. I'd say the three best trenches teams we'll face this year will probably be Penn State, Iowa. I mean, it's those four games.
It's those four. It really is
it's
those
the four
four
games.
Those are
But,
good. Those are good teams with
I
a
will
really good
say,
collection of talent.
the only two schools to have, so I've referenced Phil Steele's position room rankings, right? Which I find very fascinating. Gives you kind of a lay of the land in terms of what your schedule looks like. For O-line, D-line, the only two schools we play that have an O-line and D-line ranked ahead of us is Iowa and Penn State. So in terms of physicality, I know we can hang with Iowa. Obviously, these are just words on paper. Everything's going to be determined inside the numbers, like Signetti likes to say. And, just knowing going into it that we already have that hype and knowing that we're probably going to exceed it just based on what happened last year. Like, I mean, we're going to be better at the O-line, just in the trenches, just a matter of how good. Are we there yet? Stacking days, stacking weeks, stacking months, stacking years. Yeah, are we there yet? Are we ahead of schedule? And we brought in a lot of talented kids in those trenches, and it's exciting. I'm so pumped to just see it on the field, man. 33 days.
It's coming quick. They asked me. The question to Mikhail was, you have the Oregon and the Penn State games canceled. They said they're loud. What did you learn from those games, meaning like Ohio State, Penn State, or Ohio State, Notre Dame in 2024? And he said leading into those games last year, he was focused on kind of ignoring the noise, blocking out the scene, downplaying the magnitude of the moment. And he said he thought it messed with the way he prepared and the way he played in the game. He said that this year, the goal is to embrace that moment when he's playing in a big game, to acknowledge it's a big game and not to get like too amped up or in that sense, but just kind of understand the moment, elevate to the moment and not, I guess, be caught off guard in a sense. That's not what he said, but that's kind of the way it seemed like he was putting it. Is like, no, like these environments are talked about the way they're talked about. Like they're like terrifying environments for a reason. So embrace being in those environments. Don't just kind of, I guess, run from the noise. So it's the way a lot of these guys are talking about the lessons they learned in 2024 and carrying that over into 2025. It's like, yeah, it really was the first time a lot of them had faced 100,000 people screaming against them. It's like that's an experience to anybody seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's a huge step up. Like, obviously, when it comes to, I think a lot of the questions people were asking, like, can these James Madison kids hang with the physicality of the Big Ten? And clearly the answer was yes. Like at a point where it's like not even like group of 5 guys should be looked. If you're an all conference group of 5 guys, you should probably be playing power 4 football. Just from what you saw from an Indiana team that had a transfer class basically completely compiled of group of 5 guys, and they were able to come in and go all the way to the playoff. Now they're bringing in guys from, the power 4 ranks and trying to see how that starts to translate over. It's going to be a huge factor. I think something that goes unsaid about these group of 5 guys is the fact that, they go from playing in 25,000 people stadiums all the way to 100K. And for those SEC fans listening, that is 4 times the seating capacity of a typical Sun Belt stadium. So yeah, a big upsell. I mean, that's only going to like when you're a 20-year-old, 21-year-old person, I mean, it's only natural to start getting those butterflies, start getting those jitters. Not saying, our guys are getting rattled and stuff, but it's only natural to have some sort of emotions around it, right? Especially when it's your first time. Ohio State, first big game in a hostile environment, really, for those guys, right? Notre Dame, first playoff game for those guys. Totally different from an Ohio State kind of game where it's like, okay, it's just a big game during season. Like Notre Dame, we're at Notre Dame. It's win or go home. Like everything's on the line. All your goals. All
You're the
season.
only game on.
Different type of
Everyone's
feeling. I'm
watching
not saying
you.
they came out flat. They just were outmatched, and maybe.
No, they definitely didn't come out flat.
Maybe it had to do with those environments, and but yeah, there was just they stacked another year, and now they're that much closer to knocking off a team in the playoff and maybe even running the table. So I mean, I'm just excited to get into it and kind of see where we're at going after this year, because really the goal is, like, if we're trying to like lowball this, obviously we think very highly, we think they're going to the playoff, but realistically, they go 9-3 this year, we're still on schedule, we're rolling just fine, recruiting's not going to take that much of a dip. I mean, we win 9 games and then maybe get a 10th win in a bowl game, we're right where we need to be. If we just miss out on that playoff for whatever reason.
I don't even like the way you're talking right now.
Yeah, I know. You don't like, this is where you don't set the self-imposed limitations. I think the sky's the limit for this team. I think this team has the talent and the coaching to win the national title. Now, what I always say is, does that happen every time when you do have the talent and the coaching? Because guess what? There's probably 10 other teams that have that too. So, especially in this portal era where it used to be, about like 5 teams were capable of winning a title. These days, you look at these preview magazines. I mean, I'd say there's like 9 teams in the Big Ten that can go to the playoff, probably another 9 in the SEC. And of those 9 in each, probably 5 can probably win it all, so it's a crazy, very, very high parity college football league we have right now.
Well,
and
speaking of the coach,
how do we handle it this year? How do we handle a little bit of hype? Not saying there's probably not enough hype for this team, all things considered, but there is still, expectations going into it where there probably wasn't any last year.
Speaking of coaching,
Les Austin Jr. said, "Stop it! Indiana can't even win the Big Ten. You don't even need to win the Big Ten to win the national title." Les Austin Jr. Did you not watch ball last year? Ohio State didn't even make the title game, and they ran the table all the way. They got 4th place in the league, went all the way to the national title. So you can't tell me what can't happen.
Anyways, shout out to Brian Galvin. Brian, if you don't follow Brian on Twitter, Brian's been tweeting out cut-ups of different. Actually, a bunch of Indiana players. So we've been retweeting those off the accounts that have been awesome. If you like kind of like short film cut-ups, definitely give Brian a follow. He's saying this team is probably better than last year's team based on what he's seeing.
They are 100% better than last year. In every single position group is upgraded from last year. Every single one. I would say the biggest one obviously would be quarterback, because that's one person and it comes right. So it really just comes down to that. Is he better than Rourke? Is Mendoza going to be execute on 3rd downs just as good as Rourke and then maybe have some more explosive plays than he does? I mean, Rourke played damn near perfect. Like I said, besides,
besides 10 quarters of football, he was perfect. And I do agree.
He really was. And,
he was.
Mendoza
was 9th in the Heisman. He missed a game.
Because it's so quarterback friendly. And it's like, Mendoza could be the guy with his mobility to get Indiana in that spot to where they can, with his mobility, with his kind of dog mentality, with his talent, obviously, can get them to that next level in terms of winning those big games, get a big win at Penn State, at Oregon, something like that, get to 11-1, 12-0 back in the playoff. World's their oyster.
Yeah, it's clear Les takes his talking points from ESPN, SEC Twitter accounts and doesn't actually watch ball. So I'm going to move on with the coaches. They asked Mikal Kamara about Pat Kuntz and Buddha Williams. He talked about two different coaching styles. He said Kuntz is more like energetic, detail-oriented. Buddha's much more laid back. He said early in his career, he appreciated like Kuntz's like fire, his energy, his intensity, his attention to detail because he's still learning, developing. He said as he's gotten older, as he's developed as a player, and as he's matured, he appreciates Coach Buddha's laid back style and his ability to kind of let confidence breed. And so it's cool to have those two different voices in the room, especially when you have a mix of veterans like this team does and a lot of really talented young guys that are feeding off of two different voices.
Agreed. Yeah, I got nothing for that, honestly. I'm just kind of, you know, I am less Austin. I imagine I see Detroit versus everybody. I imagine he's a Michigan fan. You know, just because your schedule isn't maybe as strong as others doesn't make you a bad team. So, I mean,
Indiana beat Michigan last year, so that would make it even worse.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? That would be hilarious if he was a Michigan fan. We welcome all fan bases. Yeah. We welcome all fan bases because everybody.
Yeah, no, I love talking. I love when Kentucky team fans come in here, like when Notre Dame fans come in here. We had a Penn Stater come in here a couple times. It's good. All are welcome. You know, would love to just kind of just prepare people to just mentally prepare for Indiana still being good and still being relevant in the sport of college football.
Well, you know what most of those schools have in common, Brad? They tried to hire Brian Haynes as a defensive coordinator.
Oh, really?
And and they asked Kamar about that. He said he would have been upset if Haynes had left, but obviously he understands it's a business. It's funny. Kamar talked about his decision to come back. Sarat actually was a little bit closer to leaving than I thought he was. Talked about his decision to come back after the Notre Dame game. And you think of the timing of when all that Haynes news was happening around like New Year's, and it's just so important. He then went on to talk about the staff continuity. Like he said, Signetti understands who he has around and goes out of his way to keep those guys paid and gives them what they deserve and room to grow and support. And like, you don't just like stand by somebody for 8, 9, 10 years if they don't treat you right and put you in the best position to succeed. And like, it's not just Kamar saying this. It's not just Sarat saying this. It's not just Fisher saying this. Like, this is every single person who comes in contact with this program says the same thing. Like, this guy treats his assistants like gold because he understands who's around him. And that's a huge reason why they're so successful.
Agreed. And you also don't stay there that long if you're not bought in. That goes with any job. You know, if you're not sold on the product, you're probably not going to stick around for a while.
Agreed. I thought Elijah Sarat was the star of Media Day, to be honest. He had I don't know if it was the longest interview. It was the longest clip that I saw. The first question they asked him was, what was his first like big NIL purchase? And they actually tried surprisingly hard to pry the NIL number out of Sarat. And the only thing they got from him was that everything was squared away essentially when he decided to come back, which was around the Notre Dame game. So it didn't even come close to that July 1st deadline. So for a lot of the guys, the main guys on Indiana's team, like they didn't even have to worry about dealing with the report this here, rev share that, like all those things were squared away before the change. So that's awesome to hear. But he said his first big purchase was a Scat Pack Dodge Charger.
He deserves it. I mean, he's
damn right he deserves it.
The Charger, the dog. I mean, he's starting to fish a little bit. I mean, Mikal Kamar is awesome. I cannot wait for his 17+ sack season in the works.
This is Sarat.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
My bad. I was thinking that was Kamar who bought the Charger.
No, Sarat.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully. Now I gotta think of another punchline. Hopefully he can, hopefully he's as fast as that Charger this year. If he got the speed up like him and Omar Cooper were talking about in the offseason, I mean, this team's trouble. trouble because he's already good at the 50-50 balls. Doesn't need too much separation to make plays. But I mean, if he can get that separation consistently, he's going to be an absolute problem and definitely a top 5 receiver in the country. Like people are hyping him up to be going into this year.
It's funny. They asked him a whole bunch of different questions. They asked him about collective bargaining. They're like, do you think the players should be able to like collectively bargain? And he was like, basically like, yeah, they should be able to have the discussion, but ultimately that's going to fall on the head coach. And like, he was almost like, why are you asking me this? Like, I'm graduating next year. I'm not going to have to deal with any of this. Who cares? But it was kind of funny that they did zero in and ask him that question. They also asked him about the college football playoff format. He's like, it's fine. Like, I don't see any problem with it. Obviously, what's the kid supposed to say? Like, could you imagine if Sarat was just like, you know what? No, we actually need the 4x1x1x3x2, and he like spit out like a whole model. I'd be like, why do you have all this? Why do you care?
He shouldn't care. He shouldn't
Exactly,
care
that's
at
my
all.
point.
He should be trying to go undefeated. What top ranked team did IU beat last year?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't want to.
I'm not falling for that bait. I'm not falling for that bait. I think Michigan was definitely our strongest win. I thought they were a top 25 team all year. I thought they had probably a top 3-2 defense last year, and I think beating them was something that probably wasn't as hyped because of their record, and it was a tough Big Ten last year, and they were struggling on the offensive end. But we're figuring it out on offense by the time they played us, so we had our hands full having to deal with them as their offense started to click basically a couple weeks before we had to deal with them. So.
I mean, they went on and beat Ohio State the next week. Yeah. So
I'm down to like, answer your questions less, honestly. It's really not.
I'd rather answer Brian's question. What have you guys heard about the tight end position? Are they going to have a B-roll and quick skim over the depth chart? Is Blake Thierry the future at the position since everyone else is a senior or a junior? Bro, yes, Blake Thierry is the future. But this is a question for Brad. Go ahead.
This is a Brad question. Or a Goom question. Master of the eye test. Holden Stays, probably going to be the incumbent, big transfer from Tennessee, was a former top 10 tight end recruit in his class. Started at Notre Dame, went to Tennessee. Now he's at Indiana. Definitely, fills in to be a starter, was making plays in the spring game from what I was seeing. And behind him, it really is kind of up in the air. Not a whole lot of depth just because I see Riley Nowakowski as a clear H-back, just being, 6'1", 240, definitely has that fullback mold. It's really hard for me to see him on the line of scrimmage and putting going in a 3-point stance. I see him as a behind the line of scrimmage type player. And then obviously Bamba's still there, one of the better blocking tight ends, probably the best blocking tight end on the team. That's really his main role. Not much of a receiver. So really the importance of Holden staying healthy is very important for this team because we do not have too much receiving talent besides the freshman Blake Thierry, like you were mentioning. Need him to put on some weight though, because he was in track shape 2 months ago, right?
And
so he was lean. He was down to like 220, so he needs to get back up. Too. Yeah, he needs to get back up.
And Andrew Barker's in that room as well.
Yes, and Andrew Barker is. We don't hype him up as much just because we know how much of a freak Blake Thierry is. But Barker is that guy where size-wise, he's ready to go in there if needed. I don't know, how great of a receiver he is yet at the Big Ten level. You know what I mean? I know he's obviously a Big Ten recruit. I'm trusting the Signetti vision. Is he ready right now? I'm not sure. So the importance of Holden Stays is immense, right? Because if we don't, obviously they'll make adjustments. Probably have to go more 4 wide with receivers, and we got plenty of those. So it wouldn't be the end of the world, but always good to have a big kind of red zone threat. They love throwing it to Horton in the red zone in certain plays and certain spots, and we saw that wheel route to West last year, right? And that's really meant for West had the wheels, and I would say Horton, as good as he was, wheels wasn't really his thing, right? It was more so kind of everything else, him just being an absolute dog. But yeah, a guy like Holden Stays, hit him with the underseam route wide open. I mean, that guy could house it. I mean, they could really set him up. He's a different type of weapon than Horton, the different type of weapon, and he's really excited to see what he can do for this team this year. Yeah, definitely probably one of the bigger question marks, but I always like to loop in tight ends with the receivers anyways. And, don't really need, the lack of depth. That's probably the only place we have a clear lack of depth just because I see
I mean, I'm gonna
Nowakowski as an
disagree with you
H-back.
slightly. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna disagree with you slightly. I don't think it's a lack of depth. Maybe as a pass catcher, but if you look at Stays, Nowakowski, Bamba, that's 3 guys, and I also disagree a little bit that Nowakowski wouldn't be able to put his hand in the dirt and line up on the end of the line of scrimmage. I got 12 personnel, like, put a 3rd tight end in there, like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bamba on the field with those 2. I actually think we're, like, formation-wise, a lot more versatile than we were last year, and while, like, yes, Stays is, like, the big play, like, I guess offensive attacking tight end. Like they have a bunch of different guys they can use at that position, and they're a lot more versatile than they were last year. I do like. It's funny. Les Austin says his problem with the Indiana fans is that we put our chests out.
We're
And
really not. We're just saying we're a
well,
top
no, well,
10
hold on,
team.
wait, Brad,
That's all
hold
we're
on, Brad,
doing.
no. And my point being good, like the confidence that Indiana is displaying as a football program should terrify you. It absolutely should terrify you. And I actually do hope that's what opposing fan bases feel when they listen to Indiana fans talk, is like, why are they so confident about their team? It's because we understand what we're looking at every day. And this is a damn good football team. And so I'm glad it kind of freaks you out.
Yeah, maybe they
Makes me
didn't play
happy.
a lick last year, but they also
Yeah.
still led the country in scoring margin after week 14. So it's like, what do you say to that? That's what good teams do to bad schedules. They lead the country in scoring margin. It's really like it's like I really question the education system when I hear things like this. I really do. I worry about our future, as a society when I see things like this.
Let's go back to Elijah Sarat. They asked Elijah Sarat which opposing venue he liked the best. He said Ohio State. He said just having 100,000 opposing fans screaming at you was just an insane experience, something he's never experienced before. They asked him if 2024 had sunk in. He said no. He turned the page. His goal is to get a championship, and so he said like, yeah, it was cool, but like, no, he moved on pretty quickly.
That's funny.
Are we going to catch a couple of the practices or attend any of the pressers? Need one of you there to ask questions? Maybe
I don't
not
think
this year, but in the
I don't
future,
really have media
we'll see.
access yet, to be honest.
I don't think it wouldn't be hard to get. Like we have enough media out there where it's like we're media. We'd be able to get media credentials. We go through
Yeah,
Mark Rogers, the head honcho. We'd figure it out.
yeah, we could.
We'll see.
I'm
I
also
will
trying to go to
definitely
the
be.
games.
I will be at a game this year for sure. I don't know if it's going to be in a media capacity or just a fan capacity, but when I'm there, I will make it known. I
I will
promise.
say I am eyeing the UCLA game at home. I'm also eyeing Oregon on the road. Those are as a West Coast guy, only natural. I'm going to those ones. And no, excited for the upcoming season. And ready to see Bloomington again, as it's been a little too long, as I didn't go last year, surprisingly enough. Did go to the Pasadena game on the road. Didn't go back to Bloomington, though, unfortunately. Trying to go back this year, though, for sure. We'll see what my schedule looks like, though. Pretty busy guy outside of this.
They asked Sarat about the buy-in from the fans. He said it was really cool to see. They asked him if he jokes with the basketball team or that they're a football school now. He said we actually want to be good at both. So no, we just hope we keep winning. That's the goal, which I thought was an awesome answer. They asked him what he was focusing on improving on. He said improve everything. This dude's just a psychopath. He's like, I'm just going to get better. This is where he talked about coming back. He said he wasn't super sure until after the Notre Dame game, but something that played a major part in him deciding to come back was he had 952 yards last year, not 1,000.
Love that. Love that mentality.
And his goal is to be a first round pick. And so that's why he's back.
Hell yeah.
They asked him if the quarterback needs swag to play for Kurt Signetti. He laughed and said no. Talked about Curtis Rourke being a married man and like a great guy on and off the field, somebody he still talks to all the time, but somebody that didn't have a ton of swag. But he said, Mendoza is that like South Florida, a little bit more swag, a little bit more something to him. But obviously they both just they're football dogs and they love the game and they're just like in the facility. They work their asses off, and so that's why they mesh with Signetti.
I think the similarities between Rourke and Mendoza really come down to like that alien comment we made, where like, you know, they're just ball, you know, that's all they are. Obviously, Mendoza had the wife, right, at the time, so he was wife and ball. Mendoza's just ball, single guy, not married, solely married to the game right now, as you want your quarterback to be. So, yeah, excited for that kid. He's an God. I can't believe I'm still not over that Nicole Auerbach interview.
So
What's
good.
what's your favorite thing to do, Fernando? Community. You're an alien. You are an alien, and I love that you're my quarterback, honestly. I thought Les Austin left, bro.
Yeah, Les Austin has spent so much time not caring about Indiana. He's on his like 12th comment. Here's the problem with people like Les is that they think that based on the history of college football, that what was will always be. And it's like, hey, buddy, has the sport changed at all in the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Like, yeah, it's an alternating world out there, and open your eyes to it or you'll miss it. And John's the man. So,
yeah, we got you, John.
They asked Sarat about the difference in command of the huddle between Rourke and Mendoza, and he said actually they're really similar, which I thought was interesting. He said Rourke, if he had a problem with you, or if he like something needed to be said, like he had no problem calling you out. Mendoza's the same way, and he said that's something you probably wouldn't expect from Rourke, given he was a little bit more laid back, but on the field general type of guy. Shout out to Curtis Rourke.
Shout out Rourke.
They asked him when he started, like when the offense started clicking with Fernando Mendoza. And he said towards the middle to the end of spring. He said obviously there was those growing pains early, and then towards the end of spring, you know, the offense kind of got on track and started firing. They asked him, was there a moment from practice that stood out about Mendoza? And they were like, was it a throw or a specific play? And he said it wasn't a throw. He said, but there was a bootleg where like Mendoza got out of the pocket, and all of a sudden he was 60 yards down the field like that. He's like, oh, this guy can move. And that's something Signetti said this too, is like there were times throughout practice where it was like his athletic ability was on display, and he's a lot more athletic than people want to give him credit for. And I'm not saying they're going to run him 25 times a game. Like they're not going to like be an option offense, but the quarterback run's going to be in play this year, not that, like unlike it was last year.
Yeah, he's got wheels. Don't let the kid get in space. That's all I'll say. There's a few good clips out there where he's able to get a good, 20 to 30 yard chunks on certain runs, and maybe even able to make a guy miss in the open field. He is underratedly athletic, on top of being a pocket passer in terms of tendency wise, in terms of how he likes to play. So having all that, it really does mold the kind of the prototype of the modern quarterback, being a pocket passer, but still having that mobility. That's something Lamar had to learn was, I can really run it, and I'm faster than everyone. And I'm better at football than everyone. I always have been. But once you get to the NFL, guys are just as fast as me. I'm still the better at football than everyone else. But in order to do that, got to be a little bit more of a pocket passer. He had to go the reverse way. So, that's what you look for. And I'm not calling Fernando Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying, that's what all the quarterbacks in the NFL do, right? They're pass first, and then they run when they need to. And some are better at running than others. And Mendoza, I would say, is better than a lot of guys when you get in the open field. People talk, I think I'd say like, at least in the college level right now, Mateer is probably at his level. And, Arch Manning can really run it. Obviously, Sellers and Lagway can do it a little bit, but Mendoza's not far off from those guys in terms of mobility, and just excited.
I'm not. He's not Lagway or Sellers, dude. I'm not putting that on him.
He's about
no, he's athletic and he can move and he can surprise you, but he's not. He's not Lenore Sellers.
I know he's not Lenore Sellers. I'm just saying, like, the kid's fast, and he don't let him get in space, right? He's not going to truck anyone. He doesn't have the same size as Lenore's, but don't let the kid get in space. Les, please bookmark this podcast, please.
The energy doesn't change. Like, we don't care. Yeah, you'll be back this episode. Like, you'll be back. That's too funny. They asked him about Hemby and BB, and he said he actually went into Luke Kaylon Black in with the other two running backs, saying all three guys have juice and they're going to show out this year, which I loved, obviously, something we've been talking about for months. Talked about how Curtis Rourke, the team didn't know about the ACL. That's something that's been widely reported, but just kind of talked about that. Talked about Fernando Mendoza being a good dude with a switch. He's got the best arm talent he's ever played with. And you can tell he's putting all the time in with the offense in the facility with the guys, putting in extra work. And it's just like, these are the things you want to hear about your quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything I've been hearing about Mendoza is in line with what we've been hearing from NFL pundits, from myself, from you name it. I mean, the hype is real. I mean, this guy is getting this hype that I don't think people are even like acknowledging, honestly. Like the hype is there, but like people aren't really, it doesn't feel like people are talking about him in the same vein as like Lenore Sellers or a Lagway or a Arch Manning or even a John Mateer, right? And I think that part of that is the brand brain, right? He's kind of just hidden in this, in this IU bubble where, the national media doesn't really want to talk about them all the time. But when you get into the nitty gritty of people ranking quarterbacks or projecting NFL draft picks, Mendoza's in all of those conversations right now. And I don't know. I feel like it's just not being addressed other than right here at the Indiana at the voice of college football.
We'll continue to say it over and over again. They asked Sarat about his favorite moment. He named a couple. He talked about Purdue being his first snow game. He talked about the feeling of scoring versus Michigan, like the crowd going crazy. And he said he didn't have his best game versus Michigan, but just like that moment. And then just the turning point of the season playing Maryland. We talked about it being kind of shitty weather and the fans were just there and showed out. And like I said last week, Hemby acknowledged this too in one of his interviews, saying like that was a major reason why he wanted to go to Indiana, was the fact the fans showed out that game. So it's obviously fan support incredibly important. And then this was the gem. They asked him the second thing they asked him was if anybody on the team reminds him of Signetti or is like Signetti, and he laughed and said no pretty much immediately. But they asked him if he had a favorite Sig memory. And he said after he said after the Northwestern game, he's like, I had 100 yards or something. I have it in front of me. He had 7 catches for 135 yards. Sig goes, Sarat, come here. And he did like a Sig voice, like he mimicked the voice. It's so good. I got to tweet the clip or something. He goes, you going to block this week? Or are you going to be soft?
It's like, damn. Yeah, I know. I saw that clip. He's like, yeah, it definitely keeps you humble. Doesn't let you get too high. He's like, damn, I thought I had a good game. Guess I didn't. Back to the grindstone he goes.
So good. So good.
The team is really good at blocking downfield. It's definitely something that
they really are.
Emphasize 100%, where it's like, if you're not blocking downfield, you're just not playing. Donovan McCulley. I'm sorry. That was weird. That was
mean.
That was a weird
There was
call.
I mean, I don't remember the name of the Michigan fan who was losing his mind over Donovan McCulley, but there was some McCulley stuff on the timeline this week that I was just like, I don't like it. I don't want to talk bad about
former players.
Yeah, it's like they're not on our team anymore. We don't play them. Like I don't really care.
Yeah, no.
Hope he goes there and does well, but it's like there's a reason why he's not here.
Yeah, I hope he puts up fat numbers this year for Michigan, honestly. I hope he's the receiver and maybe he gets drafted. I think he got screwed by Tom Allen by them making him a receiver. I think he definitely had a lot of potential at quarterback. But I'm not in those rooms.
I want to talk about Aiden Fisher.
Yeah, talk about Aiden
Fisher. They asked Aiden about Signetti taking down the picks from 2024, and he said, yeah, the focus is completely on 2025. So I thought that was funny that they brought that back up. He also said he took the playoff stickers off of everything, off his helmets, his water bottles, and he doesn't want to be reminded of that. It's just full-blown focus forward.
100%.
It's a leader.
Hope the whole team's doing it.
They asked him about lessons, and he said the goal is to move forward, and they're working towards a ring, which he was like, Kamar talked about a ring, Sarat talked about a ring, Fisher talked about a ring, Signetti talked about a championship. Like they're not shying away from these conversations. Like these are the conversations A, they want to be in, and B, they're forcing themselves into. So it's like, get used to it. They asked him about the mindset of the team. He said, and this is something he's repeated multiple times, that early in camp, maybe there were some new guys, some freshmen, some transfers that weren't necessarily bought in. Maybe they thought they were bigger than the program. He said, now they're in a really good place. Like that has been taken care of throughout the spring. They're in a really good place moving into fall camp. Talked about confidence. He said that will not be a problem for this program moving forward.
Never is.
Never is. Talked
Never
about
Bryant. Never will.
Talked about Bryant Haynes saying ultimately Haynes wanted to be at Indiana with Signetti, and he said the fact that very similar to what Kamara said is that the fact that like the staff has been together for so long speaks volumes of Signetti.
100%. I think that's already been said today.
Yep. They asked him about the stadium experience. He said it was a surreal feeling. They asked him if he liked the term new versus old Indiana. He said not necessarily, but he finds himself using it a lot. So I guess he has to like it. But it's something that I found myself transitioning away from as the year went on. It's like I was calling it the new Indiana, especially early in the year. And this is something the class of 2025 kind of spearheaded. Hollywood Bell being one of those guys, Kyler Garcia being one of those guys, hyping up that the like atmosphere had completely changed. But after you spend a year and it's now Curt Signetti's Indiana football, to call it the new Indiana feels almost like it's this exactly. This is Indiana football. It's Curt Signetti's Indiana football, and it's like fast, physical, relentless from here on out. So I feel myself having that same feelings towards the phrase that Fisher does. So it's kind of funny to hear him articulate that.
Wait, hold on. I'm pulling up a quote. Hold on.
It's gonna be brutal for them.
I can be more smooth with this, but one play at a time, 6 seconds of play. Every play has a life and history of its own. Fast, physical, relentless. 11 guys doing their jobs, smart, disciplined, poised, not affected by success or failure. On to the next play, never satisfied. That's the team. And they're gonna execute that. That's what they were last year. They're gonna be that this year. And they're more talented. And then people are trying to tell me that, we're not going to be as good. And I just find that hard to believe. It's not going to drop off. We're not going anywhere. Something will have to severely go wrong for this team to not win 9 games. Straight up.
They asked Aiden Fisher about a Signetti story. He said his favorite was there's a glass ball and a rubber ball. And it's about resilience and bouncing back. If you drop one, the glass ball shatters, but the rubber ball bounces back. So he said that was his favorite one. That's one he's taken with him. And they asked him kind of what has led to this higher level of confidence for this Indiana football team. And he said, we've competed with the best. We've been on the field with the best, talking about Ohio State, talking about Notre Dame, been in those tough road environments. And he said, if your confidence isn't high, you're playing for the wrong program.
Facts. I mean, I don't think you can play for Indiana without, believing in yourself, in the sense that, believing in yourself is, executing practices at a high level, doing everything right. So like all that goes into play when you want to join the Indiana football program, which not everyone gets to do. They don't take everyone. They don't take you just because you're a four-star. They've turned down guys like that. Our top player from the first Signetti class, I guess sort of his first class, the top rated player ended up in the portal. He was the only guy from that class to leave. And it just speaks volumes. I'm not going to call anyone out, but you have to uphold a certain standard if you want to stick around in the program. And
it's
on top of that, like, you can put in the work and still maybe not be good enough, which is that's just the reality though of sports, right?
Yep. All right, let's jump into the smoke. I want to start with Aiden Fisher because obviously we talk about Fish being the perfect representation of our program, just an absolute leader, somebody you want to follow. If you are in the Indiana Twitter space, then you may have seen kind of a tragic story of a man who lost his wife, has 2 kids now without a mom, and Aiden Fisher and the Indiana football team got together and sent them a whole bunch of gear, put a giant smile on the 2 kids' faces, and it was just a really feel-good moment. It's something that obviously, Fisher didn't tweet it out himself. Like, he wasn't looking for recognition. He wasn't doing it for the wrong reasons, just like out of the kindness of his heart to to try and, bring a little joy in a tragic moment. And so it's just like, that's the person who's leading our program. That's the leading voice in our locker room. Like, it's can't say enough good things about Aiden Fisher and what this Indiana football team is doing, not just on the football field, but ingraining itself as part of the community in Bloomington. So shout out to everyone involved in that. And, our thoughts and prayers and hearts go out to the family.
Yeah, same thoughts and prayers to the family. And like I said, I echo your sentiment, Keezer. Couldn't have said it better myself. Don't have enough time in the podcast to say how highly I think of Aiden Fisher. Probably best leader in football right now. I'm trying to think of a guy who's a returning team captain and All-American in the country right now, and I'm struggling. Point blank, I'm just struggling to find it. So having that in our locker room is so key, because he's a grinder, lunch pail kid, 2-star recruit, came up from James Madison and has been killing it basically since he got into campus. So
shout out to Aiden Fisher. Mendoza and Sarat were named to the Maxwell Award watch list. Indiana was one of 16 teams to have multiple guys on that watch list. Again, another reason, like, why are Indiana fans so confident about their football team? Is because everybody in the country is telling us that we have talented football players, just like our own eyes are.
100%. 100%. Yeah, no, it makes sense. A little bummed Hemby got snubbed a little bit, but that's probably having to do with the fact that he will be splitting carries with BB and Black moving forward. But yeah, glad to see those guys. Last year it was just Rourke. Rourke made that list last year, and he panned out pretty good.
Fisher, Pons, and Kamar were also named to the Bronco Nagurski?
Bronco Nagurski, yes.
Nagurski, yeah. They were named to the Bronco Nagurski watch list as well. So shout out to those guys. Obviously studs at their position.
The best defensive player in the country award.
Yep. The SEC/ESPN radio guys lost their minds after media day. There was like a 10-man octo penta box of the same. I swear it was the same guy in different shirts, but literally in tears, crying about Curt Signetti in the Indiana
Same
Hoosiers.
Guy in different shirts is crazy. That's so funny.
I think Carlos Hoosier pulled one of the pictures of the guy and made it his profile picture. It was one of the funnier things I saw last week. So that was very funny. Yeah, but it's just people like that, to people in our comments like Les Austin, who's just blah, blah, blah. People are angry about Indiana football in July.
I thought we were a feel-good story.
At a one side of their mouth, they'll be like, irrelevant, we don't care, didn't do anything, didn't earn it. And then you look at Paul Feinbaum has SMU's head coach on, Rhett Lashley, and they're talking about Curt Signetti, an SEC guy and an ACC guy on ESPN. You think they'd talk about, one conference or the other conference, or, SMU's football team, but no, they're talking about Curt Signetti. And so it's like, if anybody tells you that this program doesn't have motion, is lying to your face.
I couldn't have said it better myself. You're cooking right now. Keep going.
Speaking of motion, there was a little bit of a movement on Indiana Twitter last week, started by the Burner Army, and I'll have to shout out Hoosier Commish on this one. People want many men, Brad. People want 50 cents.
People want Thunderstruck. I've always thought of that show too,
which is why. So that's kind of why I literally just put it back on the playlist. I was getting all hyped up, and then I saw the stuff unfolding on the timeline, and I'm my goal is to try and get out to one game this year. So it's I'm not gonna push one way or another in terms of what the game day experience should look like for versus people who are gonna be at 8 football games this year. Those voices should matter more, in my opinion. But once it kind of was clear which way it was going, and then once we kind of got pulled into the convo, shout out to Angelo Pons tagging us in the tweet saying we got to make this happen. It's yeah, you look at the D-Lo, the Many Men D-Lo edit that Angelo put out on his Twitter page. First of all, that ended with the Rosenthal Sports I got tingly when I saw the Rosenthal Sports. If anybody knows anything about NFL agents and things like that, it's big time agents. So love that he's representing D-Lo. But it's just yeah, it has to be many men. Bryant Haynes is in on it. It fits the vibe of this team. Everybody's taking shots left and right. It's if 50 Cent ends up in Bloomington at the end of this season, that's like one of the things me and you talked about on this show was that you'll start seeing Indiana take the next step when you start seeing celebrities and different people like associate with Bloomington that would have no other reason to be there. And like if this is the way to get 50 to Bloomington, and I'm not saying it is, but it's like that's one of those things where you just start like checking boxes.
Hey, if we're 11-0 going into Purdue, 50 will be there. I promise you. Especially if we're playing many men all year, coming on the field. I was actually somewhat opposed to many men because I like the continuity of entrance songs. It's a big part of going to games growing up. Is actually one of my favorite parts was like the entrance song of like UCLA coming out to like they would come out to Van Halen in the Darrell era. New Heisel was I think Till I Collapse by Eminem, which was really fire. Honestly, personally, my favorite. That one went crazy. And then Ladies and Gentlemen by Saliva. I mean, the list is going on. There's this one crazy song that Jim Mora would put on. One of my favorites. Many Men. You sold me on it. Many Men is the wish death upon me. Does not fit a different team better than Indiana right now. What should be the feel-good story of college football has turned into they've turned into the black sheep of what is called of Power 2 college football right now. And it's wild to me that that's the case, but Many Men fits this team and what this program in terms of attention has gotten to a T. So as long as we can keep that, going, I think it'd be awesome. But I will say, like, to be honest, I think it fits for this season.
No, I'm with you.
Forward, like, moving forward, what if we just switch it up every year, just based on the theme of the year? I don't know. I just don't see Many Men being like a 10-year walkout song for this team. Thunderstruck's kind of, timeless, right? But, Many Men for this year, I'm all for it.
We'll see what they end up doing. Hoosier Review, if you know Hoosier Review on X, one of the better Twitter accounts to follow out there if you're an Indiana fan. He tweeted out, if you could add one player to this current team from the past, who would it be? I felt like the easy answer would have been somebody like Micah McFadden or Jalen Walker or Cam Jones or somebody like that. So I went with a personal favorite. I went with Whop Phillier. He was in our class. Unbelievable in the slot. I think he had 18 catches in the Outback Bowl game we were at. Just an absolute dog. And it's not that slot is an issue on this team. I think they have a lot of highly capable guys that are going to be able to play the position. But if you just want to like experienced, like ready-made plug and play slot guy like Whop Phillier, I think would have fit perfectly on this football team.
He would totally fit this team with Coop, Sarat, and Whop Phillier. I remember meeting Whop our freshman year. We were in the same class at a B-Town banger, a random house party. Very nice guy, very chill, super cool guy. Very down to earth. And I guess what would my answer be? I can't steal WAP because there's just so many good IU players over the years.
Somebody said Simi Cobbs. I was like, ooh,
man.
Like Marcelino Ball or like T. Gray Scales.
I got one. Peyton Hendershot.
Aaron Casey.
Peyton Hendershot. I like that one a lot.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Or hear me out. Who am I thinking of? Who had the pick 6 in the Super Bowl? Tracy Porter. I'll take him. I'll take Tracy Porter.
Jameer Johnson.
No, not Jameer Johnson. Maybe Taiwan Mullen. But I'm gonna go Tracy Porter. Tracy Porter will be my answer. Corner. Just because we have a position. I like that you went kind of where we could maybe upgrade. Whop Phillier is an NFL player where we can upgrade maybe slot.
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily even like upgrade. I just like if you look at I think we're gonna be fine in the slot.
The funny thing is that Whop actually isn't all that much better than the slots that we have, which is kind of like the scary part.
He just has experience. He's got Big Ten game experience, which is like where my head went. But
you know who has the all-time leader in single game receptions in the Big Ten?
John says it'd be Jade Butcher, flanker for the 67 Rose Bowl team. I'm going to turn on the film.
Not running wishbone anymore.
No, I'm turning on the film later. I'm writing this down. Jade Butcher.
Oh, man. Back when it was called a flanker. That's a wide receiver, for those that don't know. And, wide receiver when they would, like, run the ball. 80 times a game. But yeah. You know who's the all-time leading receiver in the all-time single game receptions leader in the Big Ten is Watt Fillier, if you didn't know.
Is it 18 in the Outback Bowl?
I think it's 18, or maybe he had like 22 in a different game, something like that. But it's a crazy high number.
Something stupid like that.
Yeah,
so insane.
Because there were times on those Watt Fillier teams where like the only offense was like, all right, Watt is somewhere 8 yards down the field, and we're gonna throw it to him, and he's gonna dive over for a first down.
Watt zone sits and dives past 3 people.
Yeah. That was literally the offense for good. Certain games there.
Butcher 30 games, 30 touchdowns from Jade, but I'm excited to turn on the film later.
Oh man, what a dog.
We got, obviously, NFL training camp season started, and Jalen Walker was like an early cut for the Raiders, which is kind of shocking, but he had a Broncos.
He dropped Tevin Coleman. That's a good one.
Jalen Walker had a Broncos workout today, so hopefully he'll get picked up soon. But CJ West is absolutely showing out at 49ers camp. They talked about him really impressing, that fact that he's like winning all of his one-on-ones and like dominating, and he's built like a fire hydrant and explosive, and like everything we know CJ West to be, he's demonstrating out in San Francisco. So we love to hear that. Shout out to Big West.
The pipeline begins. The NFL pipeline begins. I mean, I'm counting just 7 at least NFL guys in this team, at least.
And Miles Price made a sick catch for the Vikings camp too.
Oh, good for him. Yeah, I mean, he's fighting for a roster spot.
CJ West number 30.
CJ West is fighting for a starter spot, whereas Price is really trying to make the team. So glad he's making plays out there.
He's grinding. 31 as a receiver is tough.
Yeah. What's good for him is that Signetti probably prepared him for some special teams roles, So he's definitely prepared to maybe win like gunner role or a punt returner role, something like that, where he can make an impact on the team where he's not necessarily in that JJ McCarthy offense. Excited for all the boys that are currently in camp already. Hence my fall camp hat that I've had on for the whole show.
We'll get into that in a second. I promise there's a little bit more smoke left, and then we'll get into fall camp and we'll get you out of here, Brad. Don't worry.
I'm not going.
Showtime sales has officially scheduled game visits for the 2025 season. Among them, Indiana, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think there was also Michigan, LSU, A&M. Off the top of my head, there may have been one more. So anybody who was nervous about maybe, like, I know there was a video going around a couple weeks ago, like, that I retweeted that, like, oh, he didn't say Indiana. Like, it's like, no, I'm not nervous. Kid's been working out in Indiana shirts. Like, said he wanted to visit Indiana. Like, yeah, he scheduled his game visit. Like, he's coming to campus. Like, these are it's obvious, like, when you have a kid as talented as Showtime Sales, he's going to take every visit he possibly can and should. You should, like, take advantage of this time. Like, go see all these different places. You just want to be one of those places that he chooses to see. And Indiana's in the conversation.
100%.
We got like team pictures from pretty much everybody, and I saw one of the guys say, I can't remember who it was, that like there no drip allowed. There was just no drip in any of the team photos, which I thought was pretty funny. But all the guys had photos coming out, so that was cool. Like there was like some cool shots of the Kamaras, which I thought was dope. And picture day is always cool. Media day is cool for the players, and they get stuff to put on socials and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like for the pictures, the no swag allowed. When they do the videos for the jumbotron, I think it's very important that they have swag on, or else it looks very weird, in my opinion. I digress.
Yep. I want 2 birthday shout outs. One, Davion Chandler birthday today. Shout out to Davion Chandler. Happy birthday. And Coach Eddie over the weekend. Happy birthday to Coach Eddie. And Coach Eddie, it's funny. One of the things that I found, like, doing, I forget where I picked this up, but Coach Eddie and Brian Haynes played on the same Ball State team together. And on Coach Eddie's birthday, he posted a picture of the 2 of them combining for a tackle, which I thought was really cool.
That's fun.
It's just the deeper connections on this coaching staff. Like, it's the little things, man. It's the little things. The other point I wanted to make about the fact that just like all these different shows continue to talk about Curt Signetti, regardless of if he's the talking point or not. It's just like that. These little things, like the fact that Feinbaum and all these guys are talking about Signetti is just helping Indiana's brand grow. It's just giving them relevance. It's giving them credibility. Like, people are talking about this Indiana football team, and that is not something we've been able to say about them in the past. And it just continues to elevate the brand.
Before this offseason, what was the last offseason anyone mentioned anything about Indiana football besides them hiring a new coach, for 10 seconds and then moving on to the next storyline? It just didn't happen, right?
And now they dominate news
really
cycles.
The first time it's ever happened. Now every time Signetti says something remotely somewhat controversial, it's going to be a headline on a Fox or ESPNU show. So, I mean, just that's off. Like you said, motion.
And then the final thing I got, Brad, we saw obviously new turf at the football, like on Memorial Stadium, like the football field. They completely revamped Mellencamp Pavilion. Anybody who's been inside Mellencamp has made the comment that it literally sounded like a warehouse in there, like the lights buzzed. That's no more. They completely fixed the lights, ripped up all the turf. It'll look brand new in there. They redid the coach's office, all that stuff. So we know between redoing the turf on the main field, redoing the entire practice facility, redoing the weight room with the $1 million investment when Derek Owens got there last year, redoing the coach, these are the things that you want to see your program invest in, because these are the things that are ultimately going to help you get better. It's going to be, you have nicer facilities, it's easier to recruit, better field, easier to recruit. Like, this is just check mark, green flag.
It's funny they went to the playoff with literal buzzing lights. So funny. Like, when you really want to think about it, like, they're just preparing for Notre Dame, taking reps. This is the whole time. Like, there's like, that must have been like, if I was there and I'm just watching that, I would laugh. I would think this is hilarious.
You got
no other team in this playoff that has buzzing lights except for us, but we're here. We're going for it. We're shooting for the stars. And then people wonder, what? Oh, they weren't even that good. Oh, no, it's not our time yet. And that's the scary thing about this team, is that it just wasn't our time yet last year. If they, just the fact that I don't want to, self-impose limitations, yada, yada. I don't want to sell the team short, but making the playoff is really that was I don't think you could really expect more from year one at an Indiana coach, right? You just can't.
Well,
realistically do that.
We've had this conversation, but if you go back and listen to the Sigs Inside episodes leading up to the season last year, like, me and you were like, oh, like, if we 8 wins is on the table, like, that they could surprise some people, like, could be 9, like, look at this. It's not that we're selling this team short, but it's like, it's an anomaly what Curt Signetti was able to do, but it's like that. It wasn't just 1 year and then done. Like, it's because of the process. It's because of the way they go about their business day in and day out that they're able to produce the results that they have. So it's like they just took the team they had last year and upgraded it. The fact that people think they're going to take this drastic step backwards, like, is mind-boggling.
It doesn't make any sense.
It literally doesn't make any sense.
The math isn't mathing.
The math does not math. But it's fall camp tomorrow, Brad. By the time you hear this clip, actually, I'll probably run this one today, or today being tomorrow. So I'll probably run this one on Wednesday. So fall camp starts literally today. Like, we're here. We made it. Football is going to be the topic of conversation, like actual legitimate football happening on a field. Like, obviously we love the speculation, but I like so much more talking about stuff that actually happens. And so, like, it's going to ramp up from here, and that's super exciting. But Brad,
we go over the pressers at fall camp as well. That's always a fun time.
Oh, I'm pumped. You know me and my pressers.
I know you're excited about the pressers.
So pumped. But Brad, I texted you and I said, can you come up with 5 storylines you're most looking forward to for fall camp? You said, absolutely, I can do that. And so let's start with number 5.
I said easy. That's what I said. Do you want me to go through the list? Just my list? Just kind of run through it, or go one?
I was thinking maybe we popcorn. Like, you go 5, popcorn. I go 5.
That's what we usually do. Usually popcorn. Yeah. So you want me to kick it off? I'm not going to go in order of what I wrote down, but Drew Evans, returning starting left guard for the team coming off an Achilles injury. Projected starter for this team. They say he's full go. What's that going to look like? Is he is he going to be ready? It's just a big question mark for me. Obviously, they're saying he's good, just making sure he stays healthy and gets up to game speed in a short amount of time. Like I said, 33 days. He has to get up to game speed. Yeah, just excited for that progress that he makes over time in those 33 days and gets ready for Old Dominion. Will he be ready in time to where they have to maybe start Benson for a little bit, bump Breda left guard for a little bit, put Benson at right guard, maybe throwing a Johnny there at the left guard spot while Bray Lynch, we'll see what they end up doing. But yeah, Bray Lynch for me is probably one of the bigger storylines because that's going to dictate if he's healthy. The O-line is pretty straightforward for me for the most part. But his health, you could argue he was our best O-lineman last year. You could before he got hurt. So him coming back is going to be absolutely huge for this team. And yeah, just excited to see him make strides in terms of getting his health and fitness back to where it needs to be for him to, put some bodies into the dirt come, September, October, November.
No, but did you do all players or did you do?
That was that's the only specific player I wrote down because he's coming off an Achilles injury.
Okay. I went a little bit more broad than you did. For number 5, I said the offensive line health / depth. To your point exactly, Drew Evans cleared, Khalil Benson cleared. We'll see how quickly those guys end up factoring into the offensive line. We saw Ajani was the starter at right guard in the spring game. Are we going to see potentially something where Ajani starts the season maybe at guard and we see Evans work in, and so he's not just thrust into that starting position. He can kind of build up strength, maybe use the second half or parts of those games, first 3 non-con games, to play his way into shape. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm definitely looking at, I feel like this is going to be the strength of the team. It's something Signetti has repeated over and over again. They're going to be better. So it's just, what does that last final combination look like? What do they get on the field with? And then how does the depth fall into place? Because like we've been talking about forever, I think they have 8 playable guys. So it's like, how do they deploy them ultimately? That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, and that it kind of goes into my second point. I have another offensive line. I had 2 offensive line storylines, and I wrote down right tackle battle. Right, there's a clear battle for me at right tackle. It's between Zen Mikowski and Khalil Benson. Depending on, how I see it, I think Mikowski's going to end up winning. He's my projected starter at the right tackle, and Benson's versatility, I think, comes into play here where he can play both guard positions and both tackle positions. So I think just having him in the wings and giving him reps at all the different positions might be the way they go. But we'll see. I think there's a clear path for him to start. I don't think he comes in without having the opportunity to start for the team, right? So obviously he's in a position battle to break into that starting group, and it probably goes through because he's not beating out Coogan, and then Smith, Evans, and Lynch are all back from last year, so they have jobs. I would assume. So it really comes down to Mikowski and Benson, which are the 2 most upper class guys that that I haven't mentioned yet of those 4, I would say solid spot starters, right? Obviously you have Leibfried and Ajani in the wings, and obviously they're battling for positions, but the odds are against them. This is a clear 50-50 battle. I think it's anyone's game. Zen has the upper hand, just being the spring practice starter with Benson being out. So what happens there? Who's going to end up starting at right tackle is going to be a big storyline for me.
I agree. Definitely something we're going to be keeping an eye on. I'll go with number 4. I said the secondary depth chart. I know Jamari Sharp is going to be CB1. It seems like the secondary, at least the starting secondary, is set. We're going to have obviously Pons. You'll have Amari Farrell at the strong safety, Louis Moore at the free safety, Boykin as the rover, and then Sharp as the CB2. I'm very curious to see who ends up being that second unit behind those guys. Is somebody like Jalen Hollywood Bell going to be able to steal a spot? How quickly does Byron Baldwin Jr. play his way into being one of those guys who needs to be on the field, whether it's that first substitution or ultimately pushing one of those starting guys for a spot? Is Seonta Stewart how quickly along is a guy like Paul Nelson? What's Quentin I guess Paul Nelson would be a linebacker, but like, is Zachary Smith somebody who's going to factor? Is Garrett Reese somebody who's going to factor? Are these guys going to redshirt? That's something that I'm going to keep an eye on for the spring or for the fall, because like we've talked about ad nauseum, that's probably our favorite room is the defensive back room. And there's so much talent up and down the depth chart that it's like they have a lot to figure out in a good way.
Yeah, totally agree. Like what role is Jaja Boy going to find? Does Dontre Stewart get in the mix?
Henderson?
You know, Bonds, what's his role? Obviously, he's a special team ace on this team, but what's his role on the 11-man defense? And I wrote down as one of my other ones was cornerback battle. Well, the two battles I wrote down was right tackle, and then obviously that seat. It's not no one's battling Pons, but who's going to be on the opposite side of 5? And obviously Sharp has the inside lane right now, inside track being the spring practice starter right now, but like Signetti said, Knighton, Gandy, and Jalen Hollywood Bell are all in the wings fighting for that spot. Well, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be it's probably one of the crazier battles that no one's talking about around the Big Ten, probably. I think all those guys, what's great is that, like, if you throw any of those 4 guys on, especially Hollywood Bell, if he beats out those 3 guys, like I said before, I mean, dude's probably
that would be insane.
Animal.
That would be absolutely insane.
But yeah, Gandy's super talented, but like I said, he's still a sophomore. We got 3 years of Gandy. We got 2 years of Knighton. We got 2 more years of Sharp too. So every cornerback, I have 6 cornerbacks listed. Obviously, Dontre Henderson's another one, but all 7 cornerbacks that we have are underclassmen. And I think that is huge going into it. They're super young. They're super talented. Pons is likely gone next year, so that just comes in handy having all those guys back, right? And it's huge future with those guys, and that competition is only going to make them stronger and probably have honestly a bigger impact on next year than anything else, because you just kind of mix and match those guys this year because you have Pons, who's Pons Island, by himself on the other side. So having all those guys kind of get 1 reps throughout fall camp is only going to make the team as a whole better in the long run.
Well, yeah, and the thing that also gets exciting if somebody like Hollywood Bell is the person who ends up pushing and maybe not winning that job immediately, but factoring into it, is like if you not that you can replicate D'Angelo Pons, right? He's a very unique player, but who's best equipped on this team to mimic what Pons does? And it's probably Jalen Hollywood Bell in the future.
100%. Yeah, and Gandy was one of the best corners at Pitt last year as a freshman. I mean, he's got tons of talent. Knighton was the NIU CB1, and they beat Notre Dame. So I'm sure
and he had a pick in that game.
You probably had to play well on the outsides as in Northern Illinois to beat Notre Dame. Probably had to really compete, especially in the DB room. And then obviously Sharp with the track speed. He's been a starter on this team under Tom Allen. Got put on the back burner last year, but now he's still there. He's been getting better. That's what that tells me. The fact that he's still there, the fact that they kept him over Jameer Johnson, who ended up transferring over to UCLA as our starter last year. I mean, it's like we said. It's our favorite room. It's our favorite room.
I need a sidebar real quick. What was JoJo Johnson's first name?
It's JoJo. That's what it was on the program. Obviously, he's not named
the
JoJo.
safety.
22 Sharp.
No, I'm talking about back in the Tom Allen. I'm going back. I'm now confused.
Sharp started.
Who is the safety in 2020 who wore 22?
Jazz Johnson. Yeah.
Okay.
We like Jazz Johnson.
Yeah, that's who I was talking about before.
I was so shocked he didn't out in the league, to be honest.
That's who I was talking about, who I would add to the team, not Jameer Johnson, who transferred. Not that I don't like Jameer Johnson.
All right. So good sidebar.
Yeah. I'll go to my number 3 storyline. I'm looking at the defensive line rotation. I think that the front of the defensive line, that top line guys are obviously unbelievable. But what makes a defensive line scary is playable depth and the ability to rotate in fresh pass rushers. And you have guys like Wyatt and Daly and Landino and Ndukwe and the DePepes were pictured. They're alive. They're in the program. Like we see them. You have a lot of these young freshmen too. you have Tucker and Wheeler and Ratcliffe and like Garcia and like there's a lot of bodies to attack the quarterback and to control the line of scrimmage. And like obviously the top end talent on the team last year, like we've talked about, was unbelievable. But when you talked about the depth on the defensive line, they were a little weak. This year, not an issue. They go 2 deep, maybe even 3 deep across all 3 positions.
Yeah.
It's
3
terrifying
deep at certain spots for sure.
And it's just I'm curious to see how often, how quickly they rotate these guys in, and whether it's an emphasis on keeping them fresh or if it's just the best guys play. I think they're going to keep guys fresh, especially early in the season. And I think you're going to see a lot of really, really talented young guys play early.
I agree. I think Kyler Garcia has a chance to really make an impact. I think that whole D tackle room, Wheeler, Tucker, Ratcliffe, Landino, Monette, and Garcia can really find time on the field this year. We've already said how high we are on Ndukwe. We brought in Wyatt and Daly. Would love to see, how those guys translate. They just seem nasty players. And I'm not even going to mention Kamar because he's an All-American. And, Andrew Turvey. Andrew Turvey's just around. I like Andrew Turvey. I'm going to give him his flowers. 18 in your program. Probably my favorite. It's a toss between him and Utzinger. But Andrew Turvey might come in for a little package here and there. And he's a lanky, very strong kid and has played in Indiana football before. So we'll see what kind of impact he can have as well and see if he can crack the rotation as a likely, starter. So I basically named 11 guys that could really see the field this year. And I didn't even mention the Pet Bees. Would love to see some of those guys maybe mix in this year. That'd be a great sign for me because, to be honest, I'm a little hesitant on them to really mention them as impact guys yet. But, there's a lot of hype to them. There's a lot of length there, especially with Andrew, who's, the older one and the more highly touted recruit coming out. He's physically matured and ready to play. The younger one, he's 6'6", 240. That doesn't a little lanky for me right now, but he can get there. They might change the weight. The weight might be inaccurate. You mentioned some graphics.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing that we didn't.
Pounds, right?
Yeah,
and
Derek Owings was putting up some stuff where muscle growth from the guys like Byron Baldwin Jr. like 18 pounds of muscle, Quentin Clark 30 pounds of muscle, Boykin up 10 to 12 pounds, like Seonta Stewart changed his body, like all these dudes were putting in work, and it's like those are the things that kind of fly under the radar where it's like is a freshman going to be ready to play? It's like, yeah, Byron Baldwin Jr. putting on 18 pounds of muscle is going to be ready to play football this fall.
Yeah, I think he can play in the Big Ten this year, considering he's a 4-star recruit. Yeah, 100% agree. By the way, another sidebar. Did you see the graphic of the Cal guys and their body count? Did you see that?
Yeah, if that's not
freaky.
HGH or Trent or
yeah, dude,
whatever,
I don't know what's going on over there. Someone's got to look into that a little.
Like I'm watching Derek Owings do things the right way. Things look natural. It's like, actions, consequence. You know what I mean? Like it's just things look right. It's like you look at the Cal guys. It's like I was here for a week and a half and I look like Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Terry Crews all of a sudden.
My God.
In my days.
Ronnie Coleman. They got a bunch of Colemans walking over there, just like arms bigger than their bodies.
So funny. I was just really proud. I don't know.
Number
I'm not
2.
Accuse them of cheating, but man, that looked crazy.
Definitely a crazy look. Number 2, Brad.
Number 4 now.
Oh, 4? Oh, I've been going down 5, 4, 3.
Oh, you were going I was just making like this is my 4th point. I've jumped around on my list. I wrote like Drew Evans at 3. So yeah. 2 skill position roles. So you're talking about D-line roles. Who's going to do what this year? Obviously, Sarat's going to be wide receiver 1.
Who's going to do what?
Who's going to do what?
Stuff?
Stays. I'd say is a very solid. He's going to be our tight end. Like I mentioned before, we already broke that room down, and I see Riley Nowakowski as a clear H-back behind the line of scrimmage type tight end. Not necessarily going to line up in 3-point stance and line up neck on the line of scrimmage, but will be around there. Not going to be out wide, but just going to be around the line of scrimmage, but not on it, right? And then bomb with a blocking tight end. But who's going to play slot? Is it going to be Mekhi Jackson? Is it going to be EJ Williams? I think when we started this live show, EJ Williams was kind of thought of as the third receiver. Like it could be Mekhi Jackson. I alluded to that, a few weeks ago. It could be number 2 in your program, Mekhi Jackson. He was a all Sun Belt player last year at App State, scored 7 touchdowns, 700 yards. Hell of a player, hell of production over potential personified as Mekhi Jackson. And yeah, what are those roles going to look like? Where does Davion Chandler? I know Johnny Brady's going to get some tick too. Like they don't bring him on without him. He's going to see the field. Like what's his role going to look like? And yeah, a lot of action going on. And and can those young guys maybe break in like Chandler, Bond, Becker? Can those guys break in and maybe get some tick? I see Becker's probably going to be a big time gunner for us, so he's still going to make an impact whether or not he's on offense or not. And now, since we're speaking of special teams, like who's going to return punts? Who's going to return? We know Van Horst returning kicks, but I don't like Van Horst returning punts.
I like how you
didn't have him do that.
I like how one of your things was just Drew Evans, and the other one was all of the skill guys on the entire roster.
Well, yeah, because it's like, all right, what are we going to do? What is the running back room going to look like, right? Like, is Hemby, BB, Black is just going to be hot as hand? Is it going to be, are they gonna stack it like, 15 for Hemby, 10 for BB, 5 for Black? Is that how it's going to go? Or, are they just going to go with hot hand? Based on those numbers, it'll just be awesome to see a much stronger skill group than it was last year, in my opinion. Just the fact that our two best guys from last year are back, and then we supplemented some really good talent like a Holden Stays, like a Mekhi Jackson, and like a Roman Hemby to kind of supplement all those different roles that we kind of had to replace. So seeing what goes on with the skill guys in this offense, where they really like to spread the wealth, a lot of guys like to get catches. It's exciting to see kind of who fits where, and I think we have a good idea, but a lot of things can change. But this kind of just started because I wanted to bring up punt return a little bit, to be honest. That's kind of why it was just like skill position roles. Punt returner, who's it going to be? It could be Johnny Brady, could be Mekhi Jackson, and sleeper, LeBron Bond. How fun would that be? Little LeBron Bond back there, number 6.
It's funny. I was thinking the same thing. I'll go a little bit tighter. Oh, first thing, actually, I believe it was Delusional Hoosier who tweeted this out. So if it wasn't, I apologize. But if it was, of course, pat in the back nailed that. D'Angelo Pond's first pick his freshman year was covering Mekhi Jackson.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's fun.
Right? Isn't that crazy? But for my number 2 storyline, I went specifically the slot receiver rotation. They have a bunch of different guys that can play there. You mentioned Mekhi Jackson, Jonathan Brady, LeBron Bond, Miles Kendrick is somebody who's working in there. Davion Chandler is someone we expect to be working in there. We know that Sarat and Cooper can both line up in the slot. We expect to see both of them work in there. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Stays maybe line up in there a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see BB or Hemby line up in the slot either.
Not BB.
He's an excellent pass catcher. He walked on as a wide receiver.
I'm going to check you there. I don't think they're going to play running backs in the slot. I don't think they're going to do that. I think our backs are backs. I think they can catch. They can catch out of the backfield. I don't think they're going to line them up wide. They just don't do that.
I bet we see Lee Beebe line up in the slot this year.
How much do you want to bet on it?
I'll bet you a beer.
Okay. Yeah. That's about what I was thinking too. Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's probably the same price, right? That's what beer costs now.
Chicago, definitely.
Arm and a leg, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking at that slot wide receiver rotation, and obviously, they played 8 receivers last year, so people are going to get ticked. And it's like Charlie Becker's a guy neither of us have mentioned at all, and he's not going to be playing the slot. But another person who I'm very excited to watch play football this year.
Yeah. Yeah, no offense to Charlie Becker, but he's not really the mold I think of when I think of slot.
No, he's not. He won't play in the slot.
6'4".
Sig said he was the only receiver in the spring to not take a snap in the slot.
Okay, that makes sense. He's a clear outside guy.
Yeah. Number 1 or last storyline. I don't know which order you went in.
Fernando Mendoza, the most important piece of this whole puzzle. The most important piece of the whole puzzle is Fernando Mendoza. Right?
There he is.
We've been talking about, we talk about the supporting cast a lot. giving them their flowers, basically to emphasize the fact that the supporting cast is where it needs to be to compete with any team in the country. How do we get over the top? It's going to come down to quarterback play, right? How do we get over the hump? And that's what comes down to. Obviously, trenches comes into play in there, but also, quarterback play as well. And we covered the trenches a good bit, but Mendoza also comes into that as being the new quarterback. Rourke was hell of efficient last year, especially on third down. Like when we needed a first down, Rourke got us a first down. My favorite comment about Rourke last year was that he's a machine that takes snapped balls and turns them into touchdowns. I think a lot of that has to do with the quarterback-friendly offense, but can Mendoza replicate that and possibly take it even further using his mobility, using his, NFL draft upside to take us over the hump, right? And that's what I'm looking for from Mendoza. Is he going to be able to pick up this offense in stride? He's had all offseason to kind of fix the mistakes he's learned from spring and obviously work at his craft and build chemistry with the receivers. And, really would love him to have a very, very strong fall camp. And we'll send this team, like I said, to the moon, is what his potential is.
I don't think there could have been a different name to be, and we didn't talk about this beforehand.
No,
but it is so obvious that is the most important storyline is the play of Fernando Mendoza. He's been in the program for 6-7 months. We've had that time to speculate on what this kid's going to look like, hear the stories, hear the way his teammates talk about him, hear the way the coaches talk about him, hear the way draft pundits are talking about him. Tomorrow or today, like whenever you end up seeing this video, July 30th, when fall camp starts, it's speculation out the window. Like it's time. And so it's like Fernando Mendoza, like we believe in him, obviously, but it's like, what do you got? We're going to find out, and we'll find out quickly. And so Indiana is going to go as far as Mendoza takes them. And if he's able to hit his ceiling and be the type of player we expect him to be, then yeah, there's going to be a lot more people out there like upset with the way Indiana puffs their chest, because we're going to be a pretty damn good football team again.
Oh yeah, we're gonna beat some teams people don't expect us to beat if Mendoza is gonna live up to the first round draft hype. And yeah, there really isn't much more to be said about the guy. He's a great leader. Honestly, the side storyline could probably be, his leadership with the team, which I think he already has the respect. We saw the clips of summer, winter workouts. He's already being vocal with the guys, breaking them up in the huddle, things like that, becoming that, Aiden Fisher on the offensive side of the ball, which we need him to be. And then obviously would like to see Coogan kind of break into a captainship role as well, but keeping it to Mendoza. I mean, he is the catalyst to what could be a very, very special year in Bloomington.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's what we got. Fall camp is here. Oh, I want to shout out Daniel Flick had a story on Mikhail Kamara, and some of the quotes coming out of that were absolutely incredible. My favorite one being, I want them to show scars of what I do to them. Thinking about quarterbacks.
He's so scary. He's so
that
scary.
Was incredible.
Dude.
He is incredible.
He is. All right. I think, I'm gonna give Caleb Downs his respect real quick, but I think, we know Jeremiah Smith. He really is like tied for first in terms of scariest player in the Big Ten. Like the straight up fear factor. Like Jeremiah Smith like makes cornerbacks shaking their boots. Mikhail Kamara makes makes offensive tackles and quarterbacks shaking their boots. And that presence is going to be felt all year. And yeah, can't wait for him to leave some scars on some Big Ten quarterbacks this year. Which young D lineman takes the biggest leap this year? Mario Landino.
I actually think it's going to be Ndukwe.
Mine's Landino.
Just because I think Ndukwe has farther to jump. That's the only. I think if Landino I think Landino showed a lot of really good things last year. If he just gets more playing time, I think we see more of that versus like we got to see the block punt from Ndukwe, but we didn't get to see much of him coming off the edge. A lot of that had to do with how big he was as a true freshman in college. That's a little bit different now. So
my take kind of comes from the fact I think Landino just gets more snaps, to be honest.
And he's just damn good, dude.
Just because we have Mikhail Kamara,
He's so good. Yeah. That's what I got for this week, Brad. Any closing thoughts as we approach the start of fall camp?
Kind of how I started. It's a great opportunity for everyone to kind of find their spot in the team, build bonds, come together as a full unit. As they're all camped up and spending. They don't even do 2 days anymore, huh?
Nope.
Which kind of.
They haven't done 2 days for like 10 years, dude.
Okay. Well,
2 days were a thing when we were like 5 and 6. Like I'm sure actually in youth football,
I did 2 days.
Yeah, I was about to say in youth football, you probably had a couple 2 days, but we were like the last age group.
Yeah.
Actually, funniest thing I saw observing, it was like a youth spring team I was watching from the like baseball field. They were in like jumping jack lines, and some kid was like lollygagging his jumping jack. So the kid leading the line jogged around the group into the line and then leveled the kid, dropped him like yeah, it was nuts. Took his head off and then went back to the front and continued doing the jumping jacks.
That's funny. Like I said, it's where bonds are formed and you come together as a team. Couldn't tell you how many inside jokes came out of fall camp back in my playing days, and it really is kind of why you
D3 was doing 2 days in 2016. Wait, that's 9 years ago though. How crazy is that?
Yeah, wow.
How crazy is that? That is wild that there were 2 days in 2016.
Yeah, we're doing 2 days in high school and in 2017.
That's wild.
Yeah. Duh. Weightlift in the morning.
Well, no, I'm not talking about weight. I'm not talking about weightlifting.
Yeah, no,
I'm talking about twice a day in pads.
Yeah, weightlifting, morning practice, lunch, film, afternoon practice, go to bed. You're waking up at 6 a.m. the next day. Go to bed. It's usually a team activity after practice, and then we go to bed. Dinner, team activity, bed. It's kind of how it goes. But yeah, it's an exciting time. It's where guys come together and form bonds. Really, kind of why you play the sport. Building bonds that last a lifetime, and starting to build something special. I guess in the minds of these players, it's more so about building bonds that can last through January as they try to set their sights on a national title, which is the team goal, as we all know. If you watch this show, that is the goal of the team. The goal of the team is to win the Big Ten title game and then go to the playoff and then win the national title. That is what this team is set up to do, and they're gonna have 33 days to figure it out.
Well, I can tell you this. If you listen to anything that any of them say, they are not running from the expectation that this is going to be a very good football team with the aspirations of winning a national title. That's the goal. They're saying it. They're not running away from it. I'm just excited that the next time we speak, which will be next Tuesday, we're going to be talking about football practice and things that actually occur on a football field. It won't be games, obviously, but one step closer. We're here. The offseason is no longer. We're in ramp up. We're here. And that's the exciting part. You can follow us at Indiana VOCFB on Twitter. Please like, share, comment, subscribe to YouTube. We're chasing 500 subscribers. We're at almost 560, I think. So I think we'll be able to get there before the season. That's the goal. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Alec Keyser. Follow Brad at Bradley_Loomis8. Check out the Sigs Inside account. And then you can get us. I know I think there was an issue with the audio last week. It didn't go to podcast feeds for some reason. That should be taken care of this week, so be on the lookout for those. Spotify, iTunes, things like that. I was also told sometimes the Believe network picks them up, so I guess maybe check that feed as well. But I'll have some information if people reach out. But yeah, we'll be back next week. Appreciate everybody for hanging out. One step closer to football season, baby. Fall camp is here.
Fall camp, baby. The 2025 Hoosier season has begun.
Go Hoosiers.
Lights, camera, action.